welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Hi, welcome to Syosset Library's Turn the Page podcast. I'm Jessica, and I am back with Rob Renzetti because we have loved all of your Grabbaugh books so much that we now have to collect every interview with you about the subsequent one. This is the third book in the series.
Yes.
It is a middle grade, creepy. It's horror, but it's not it's creepy, but we're not talking like blood coming out of the wall or anything.
There's more gross parts than gory parts, I would say. There's some gross stuff, but not really super gory stuff. But yeah, horror fantasy, I guess, is what I'm kind of straddling the genres, I guess. But
Yeah, but I think that's kind of a thing because and I know we talk about this every time we chat, is that I grew up in a time where in my opinion, all children's media was horror. It was all
yeah,
really messed up, and it
yeah,
messed me up, and this is why I am the person that I am today in the best possible way. Uh
yeah.
these books are great, and
Thank you.
I mentioned before I started recording, I teared up at the end of this one. It is such a beautiful love letter to siblinghood, to childhood, and I just adored it. So let's jump into it. The last book, we're left where Zenith, his friend Kevin, is trapped in Grabbaugh, and his sister Apogee is now 4 years old, and she's determined to become the older sibling again and kicks him out. And then it starts in a bit of a time jump.
Yeah.
So, yeah, talk a little bit about this to us and, why you decided to pick up at the point that you do.
Well, I mean, it's similar in the transition from book one to book two was that there was also a time jump there, but you kind of you gloss over it more basically in the transition there. And there's less consequential stuff happening in his first trip back to the Earth. He kind of basically he goes back to Earth for a few weeks and then he's back in Grabbaugh kind of against his will at the beginning of the second book. In the third book, he's very anxious to get back to Grabbaugh because, as you said, his sister and his best friend are trapped there. But now he has no way to get back, and so he's kind of stuck at home for another month or so. And a lot is happening because time moves differently on Grabbaugh. Like 2 years have passed there, so every day, every week, he's freaking out more and more because his all this time is going by. He doesn't know what's happening with his sister. He don't know what's happening with Kevin, his best friend. He knows what he thought it was dangerous for them to be in that land one more minute, and now they've been there for 2 more years. So he's really freaking out, and I kind of wanted the reader kind of to. Actually, my editors told me they wanted to spend more time before we got back to Grabbaugh. They told me I was moving through that kind of torturous time for Zenith too quickly, so we actually slowed down even further and kind of just had him suffer and worry a little bit longer. And we kind of delved into what his parents are thinking now because his sister is gone and there's no getting around that something strange has happened. I don't want to spoil too much about the book, but he's kind of pretending that he doesn't remember every. It's kind of again ironic and it's different than the second book. In the second book, he did forget about Grabbaugh, and that's one of the reasons they didn't get back there so soon. In this book, he remembers everything, but he's got to pretend that he's forgotten everything because otherwise, what is he going to tell his parents? What is he going to tell the police? What is he going to tell this therapist that they're now forcing him to see to try and recover the memories that he doesn't need to recover because he remembers everything? So he's kind of playing this false amnesia game back home, and that's another level of stress for him as he kind of has to keep that up. So it's a very stressful prologue before he finally gets back to Grabbaugh.
It's really funny because it called back to me the Return to Oz movie, which is actually even more terrifying than that.
Yeah, I think we
But
talked about
where
this before.
everybody
Yeah.
yeah, it's completely different than the books. But in the movie, Dorothy is like, man, they're like, you're lying about this place, and it's just this terrifying mental health
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
It wasn't that harsh,
Thank God,
but I
not,
was
not much
having
could be.
I know, right? But I was having just these flashbacks where I'm like, oh my goodness, like please don't start the electroshock on him.
No, he escapes before any consequences come down on his. But yeah, I mean, that's the alternative, right? Is he tells the truth and everybody thinks he's crazy or lying. So he really, there's no way he can legitimately be upfront with his parents because it's actually in their best interest that he isn't upfront. I mean, at least for now, he still has hope that he can get back to Grabbaugh and somehow rescue Apogee and rescue Kevin. And of course, he eventually does, and everything's different than what he feared. But it's not better by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I liked it, and I also just sort of liked how I don't want to talk about or spoil rather how he ends up back in Grabag, but you very cleverly and subtly like expanded the universe even more there,
Yeah,
and I loved that.
yeah. I mean, again, like it was interesting because when I started this trilogy quite a few years ago now, um, I didn't know everything that I wanted to do with it. I mean, this is common for authors, but I discovered a lot along the way. And which was kind of scary because I needed all three books to relate. There are things in book three that point back to book one, and I knew some of that stuff, but I didn't know all of it. And the expansion of Grabag and the idea that there's not only Earth and Grabag, but there are other realms, and that he finds out about these other realms. That was something that I didn't know was going to happen until I kind of sat down to really write this book. And it was very useful. It became a very useful device for me for many reasons. But it also, obviously, it's also like, hey, publishers, what about a book about this other world? So, we'll see. I don't know if any that'll happen, but it's fun the idea that there's other realms out there, at least for me as an author. I could write another trilogy on another fantasy world and say like, yeah, but it's all part of the same wider universe because I've given myself at least maybe 6 or 7 other worlds based on the idea that there are 11 realms that are referred to. I guess I'm just kind of giving myself a license to spin out and maybe bring all this stuff together at some future point.
I loved it, and it's always fun to kind of see those seeds growing and just kind of end a book with questions about that too, which I certainly did. But getting to this one, yeah, like the first one is again like very much like a portal fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
They're all portal fantasies, or as the kids like to call them, isekai these days. But you have that going to another world. The second one, you have that absurdist the trial and the
Mm-hmm.
tower. This one, you play with time travel and time being in flux and just really complex theories. And it was really fun to read. And just a little background. I have a 10-year-old who's reading this as we speak,
Mm-hmm.
almost finished. And he's like, oh my goodness, the time travel. But it's fun to kind of watch him start to connect the dots with things as well. How did you approach it? Because I can imagine writing time travel hurts the brain just a bit.
Yes, it does. Well, I've always been a huge fan of time travel stories. I'm what I call a sucker for time travel. Like you can show me the worst preview and I'm hating the whole thing. And the minute a time travel element is revealed, I'm like, well, now I have to watch this film. I'm intrigued. I am intrigued by the time travel. Even I know the time travel is going to be bad. I'm still intrigued by it. So I'm a sucker for time travel. And I've had a chance to do a little bit of time travel storytelling. We did a little bit of that on Gravity Falls because Alex Hirsch is also a fan of time travel. So I was thrilled when we got to do some time travel stuff. So I always knew I wanted to do a time travel story. I didn't know that time travel was going to be the solution that I needed for book three. When I started book one, I knew there were things that needed to be revealed, and I wasn't sure how to reveal them in a visual way. Like I wasn't sure how to have Zenith witness them because they had happened in the past. And then I realized that I could do that with time travel. And I figured out also, you haven't brought this up, but I'm sure this is one of the things that's confusing your son, is that I did it using trying to use theories of quantum physics. Because there are there are theories in quantum physics that allow for the possibility of time travel. So I gave myself a crash course in quantum physics and did a little bit of research on it, which was very painful for me because science was always my worst subject. Do not have a scientific mind, but I forced myself to study this so I at least have some sort of basic knowledge of the concepts I was kind of trying to use. And the side benefit of that was that I also was able to take other theories of quantum physics and make them into physical characters. There's an actual Schrodinger's cat in the book, which is one of my favorite characters. There's also a character called Grandfather Paradox. These are both theories in quantum physics, but now they are characters in Grabbaugh. Because at some point, the scribe of Grabbaugh gets a hold of Apogee and Zenith's physics books, and starts integrating the ideas of quantum physics into the rules of the world of Grabbaugh, and does it in a very haphazard, strange, weird way that only can in a Grabbaughian way, which causes more troubles and really shouldn't have been done at all. But it's a lot of fun as a writer to deal with all that stuff. But I was really kind of at a loss as to understanding things at first. But I kind of set a trap for myself. I had to understand quantum physics to make it all work.
That's amazing. What exactly, how does one take a crash course in
Well,
quantum physics?
I mean, I didn't sign up for any actual class or
Like a
whatever.
master class or
I
something?
just relied on a few reliable library books and a few seem to be reliable websites, and I just kind of read. I read through a few different times and saw how people were describing certain things, so that at least when I went into like string theory and like all the other things that are necessary for the book, I thought I was at least in the ballpark of what those theories mean. And knowing that they could be slightly messed up because they are being interpreted through the strangeness of Grabbaugh and the haphazard integration into the rules of the world, that, like certain things were left out, certain things were, in the second book I set up that like the physics book is actually losing pages. So the knowledge that is transmitted is incomplete. So that gave me a little bit of license to not get everything 100% right, but I wanted to get stuff 80% right if I could, maybe 90% right if I was having a good day. But, so I just I borrowed a couple of quantum physics for dummies, for more or less. And kind of got myself up to speed enough that I was able to write the book in a somewhat convincing way. Now, maybe I'll hear from scientists and they'll tell me it's all horrible, but I don't know. I haven't heard anything from anybody yet. So I guess the book's not out yet. We'll see. We'll see what people have to say about that
I
aspect
thought
of
it was so
things.
much fun. I
Oh,
really did.
good.
I
It was
really
meant to
did.
be fun and not to be a science lesson. So I took the science lessons for myself and then tried to translate it into fun.
I mean, but it is hard to write time travel. I mean,
Yes.
it's interesting because I did, like, very recently, my boys finally saw all three Back to the Future movies.
Mm-hmm.
And they were familiar with, like, they'd seen Meet the Robinsons and they'd seen Mr. Peabody and Sherman, the theatrical one.
Uh,
But it's not as complicated, as some of the stuff that happens where, like, like when you're watching, like, Back to the Future, where, like, this one little thing, like, Marty getting fired just ruins the whole world or something.
right.
And like, just the whole, like, how, like, one domino pushes everything else down. But it
Yeah.
was really it was so much fun, and I really loved there being a personification of the grandfather paradox, and there being a personification, if I may put
Huh.
a little a little pun in there, of Schrodinger's cat. It was just fun to read.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that was I had I had a few other characters and I just didn't have room for them, but I mentioned a few just in passing, but like those two really, I thought they were going to be fun separately and as a pair. So I really enjoyed them. And also, Schrodinger's cat is basically an expert on himself and every other quantum physics thing. So he's the kind of the science nerd that can, or she's kind of the science nerd that can explain it all to Zenith. And Zenith is like me. He's like bad at, he's not great at science. He's like not, he doesn't understand it either. So, he's kind of the stand-in for me and anybody else who feels like they're not quite up to speed. Again, like there's very little scientific explanation in the book. It's mostly just used for comedy and fun and for a way to legitimize the time travel. But I did really enjoy bringing those characters to life.
There were a lot of really sweet moments in this book too. And I don't want to tell everybody how it ends, obviously, because
Right.
you read it, and I did close the book and go, "Aw." But there were some really just nice moments between Zenith and Apogee, with Kriebel, who I am a diehard Kriebel fan myself. Uh, w- was it kind of I mean, how difficult was writing that balance? I mean, and I know you've been doing it in other mediums for years, but here, just with these characters, knowing that at least this is the end of this particular story with all of
Yeah. I mean, I guess it was always intended that I was going to get to where I ended up, but it is an interesting balance because it's hard to maybe pull it off without feeling too saccharine. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want it to be too overly sweet. Um, I don't think it's not necessarily a spoiler that say, well, the kids don't end up, dead on the ground of Grabbaugh. I mean, they do get home, they are safe. Things have changed between them, both emotionally and in other ways that I won't spoil. But they have this whole book was really all the action aside, all the fantasy elements, it really is a character story. It really is about Zenith and Apogee and their relationship because their relationship is broken at the start of the first book. And they make, in fits and starts, they kind of come to a new, better understanding between the two of them. And it's not just Zenith that needs to change, it's also Apogee. Like they both have to grow towards each other. And really, the question of the book really is how do we love the people we love? Like, it's not simple enough to say I love somebody, but like how do you express that in the way you interact with them, the way you treat them, how you respect them, you know what I mean? Like so and that's hard. I mean, I had two very much older brothers than like my older brothers were much older than me. They're 8 and 11 years older than me. So I really wanted a sibling that was closer in age to me. But I still had those same struggles where there was like this older brother or younger brother thing, and it was more pointed in my case. But that was a big deal growing up. My relationship with my brothers was a big deal to me because I saw my friends who had like siblings that were closer in age to them, and it wasn't like I had a best friend who had two older sisters, and he's like, "You do not want older sisters." Like it was not like they had sweet relationships, but like the closeness in age, I felt like maybe I was missing something, not having another sibling like that close to me. But so sibling relationships were something that I thought about a lot as a kid. So um, I wanted to explore that in this trilogy, and but it's the same with anybody that you love. Like I've been married a very long time now, and day by day, that's a negotiation, and it's not. We're very happy together, but even being very happy together, we also get on each other's nerves, and there are things that we continue to do that aggravate the other person, and we're like, come on, you got to stop trying to get out of that habit because it's driving me crazy. And so being in love is not the end of a relationship with someone, it's just the start. And like people talk about it's work. It's for us, it's pretty easy work. We have a good relationship and we're mostly in good mood with each other, but it's the work. You have to be conscious and considerate of the other person, and it's easy to take someone for granted, especially if they're a sibling who it's not your choice that you have a sister or a brother. Your parents made that choice for you in most cases. So you are stuck with this person for better or for worse. And so negotiating that, figuring out a relationship that works for the two of you or the three of you, or how many siblings you have is a lifelong pursuit. So there's a lot of richness there, and there's a lot to think about, and it's something that most people can relate to.
Absolutely. I mean, again, it continues to be funny. It's just very emotional. Like I said, it felt like a love letter to siblinghood. And I know, because in the second book you have the other siblings. Is it Little Mouth and he
Yes.
come back a bit, and it it just it just was a beautiful theme that sort of played throughout the whole story. And I urge people to pick up the books from the beginning, give it to their kids. I can't wait for my son to get to the end and be like, "Oh," because I think he's gonna just like I really think the ending is gonna knock his socks off, for a very specific reason that I can't say because it's a spoiler. But yeah, this was fun. It was such a fun series. I hope there's more in the world. And thank you so much for writing it and chatting with us.
Oh, thank you. I mean, thank you for enjoying it and for being a fan and having me talk to you about all three books. I've loved talking with you. I've obviously loved writing it. So when someone reads it and loves it, it means the world to me. So thank you very much.
Check it out. When is it officially on the shelves?
August 11th, the third book will be out. So I don't know when this podcast goes. How
It's going to
quickly
be the week where, so this was, as of this podcast, it will be on the shelves for 2 days already.
Okay. So
yeah,
it's out there.
Yes, yeah, run to your local library or your favorite independent bookstore or Barnes and
Yes.
Noble if that's what's around, or all of those. And check it out because it's a super, super great book.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica.
We are going to close this chapter of Turn the Page.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.